All right. Something I just ran across I thought was interesting.
Oh, is that Pew Research? Oh,
Puberty
I love Pew
research.
Research, man. It's the color scheme. I think it's all the color scheme.
It is. It is Pew Research. Yes. So this particular article is talking about um, the increase in foreign trust confidence in the U.S. ever since
Oh, come
President
on,
Trump's
stop it.
the left office. And I thought this particular graph was pretty funny. So
That's
this is
hilarious.
only showing Germany, France, UK, and Spain, right? There's definitely other countries that would vary from this,
Are
but
there?
you can see like during Bush's presidency,
Yeah.
the confidence wasn't very good. Then Obama like crushed it, and then Trump was like, rah. I mean, I expected him to be much lower than Bush. I guess at the end of Bush, though, yeah. And
Well,
then
you
as
can't really
soon
get
as
that much
Biden gets
lower,
in,
honestly.
it's like boop. That's true. It's close to zero there, huh? Down here.
Wait, I forgot
Yeah.
to ask. Chris, can you see?
I can't, but I'll be all right.
Okay. Well, we should be describing things, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to just the audio only. We apologize. We're really not good. If you don't know, this is also a YouTube show, so you should totally check us out there. But we're still getting used to describing things. So Timothy, do your best there.
Yeah, it's a graph. It's goes from
colors.
left to right. It's got colors and lines. It shows the confidence of Western Europe across different presidencies, and Bush between 2001 and 2008, he ranged between 50% to maybe 10%
Pretty low
confidence. Yeah. Obama, from the beginning of his presidency to the end, had a little dip in the middle, but didn't change overall too much. But probably ranges from about 90 to 60%. And then during Trump's presidency, he peaked there in the late middle at maybe 30%, but is down to the 10.
The rest of it, yeah, the rest of the countries are down there around 10.
Yeah, and then immediately from when Trump left and Biden came in, it goes up to like 75 about-ish.
Yeah, so look, man, so I don't really like the nationalist / globalist debate, because everybody who says globalist is automatically a conspiracy theorist. But you kind of see the two camps right there. So the Republicans are apparently more nationalist than the Democrats, and I mean that's kind of obvious. Like Obama was a huge, like when he was running for president, I think he did a tour of Europe. Like why? I was just hearing about this today actually. So like a lot of people think the left is globalist and the right is nationalist. I mean, that seems to be pretty obvious. So it's sort of that tracks, right? So I would assume Obama would have massive approval rating internationally, and besides, the guy's super charismatic.
Well, it wasn't. It's not. I mean, if you look at the bar chart right below it, it's also a matter of character. And this is something I've talked about a lot as we talked about the presidency and Trump in the past, which was I feel like the person that represents the country should have certain qualities about them.
Yeah.
And so this particular graph breaks out 4 different traits, I guess, of a president. One is well qualified, one is a strong leader, one is dangerous, and one is arrogant. So 2 good traits and 2 bad traits. And the graph shows Trump having only 16% of the people thinking he's well qualified, 46% of people thinking he's a strong leader, 72% of people thinking he's dangerous, and 90% of people thinking he's arrogant. And Biden has 77% of people thinking he's well qualified, 62% a strong leader, only 14% think he's dangerous, and 13% think he's arrogant.
Yeah, so again, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with those people, but again, like a globalist United States president who embraces Europe and says, I love all of you guys and all that kind of stuff, they're going to like him, therefore they're going to grade him better. I'm not even saying that they're wrong necessarily. I'm just saying, like, obviously they like him more.
Yeah.
Plus Europe is more left than the United States. So, like, our left-wing presidents are their regular presidents. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
For what it's worth, whereas today international politics come off as more of a concern on the left and the right. That certainly isn't true at the congressional level, and it almost certainly isn't true about history. I mean, we've become such a globalized society that there's always been an emphasis on foreign affairs. I mean, look at Jimmy Carter, look at Reagan. Like, you see people in the past that were heavily entrenched in international affairs openly to their constituents without avoiding that disclosure. And yeah, no, I would say pretty bipartisan. I mean, as we've gotten through this kind of America First mentality, yeah, foreign perception is, gets favored on the left because the left has taken like, hey, we should continue to care about like our role in the international world, government. But yeah, no, I would say today it's just one more thing that's been politicized more so than the past has put it in that circle of politicization.
Yeah, you kind of reminded me. It seems to be that obviously Bush was the one that started all those wars, so it's kind of inaccurate to say left right here. It seems to me, which is very interesting to me, that the populist movement actually has a lot of isolationist tendencies, which is it's kind of the opposite of what I would think. But like everybody was so excited when Trump like no new wars, thumbs up, great, fantastic, just like killed one guy or two. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, at least, I guess it's interesting because now Biden is actually removing troops, and that's creating like this very weird catechism of debate on like, anti-war /
right.
Are we destabilizing an area? Should we have taken a nation-building approach? But again, if Biden said, "Oh, we're keeping troops there to help heal the government," he would have been criticized for nation building, and so it was really I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, but it's he's kind of taken in a sense, like he's without saying it explicitly, he's rode the wave of let's look out for our country first, without saying it that way, but also he is staying true to himself. Like even under Obama, he butted heads on engagement in the Middle East. Like he wanted to bring troops home much more aggressively, even as vice president.
That's interesting. I hadn't planned on bringing this up. We can either bookmark and talk about it later, but we might as well right now. I'm kind of curious what you guys think about the withdrawal from Afghanistan, because just personally speaking, I didn't think about it very much at all. I knew, this seemed to be like 20 years in the making. This is just generally something that I've been thinking about. Yeah, we've been over there too long. I think we're wasting a whole bunch of money. We should probably leave. And that was probably the extent of thought I put into it. And then, surprise, surprise, Ben Shapiro is not so happy about it. But, I listened to why he's not so happy about it. And it kind of dawned on me, like, to me, I'm much more worried now that we're screwing over our allies, right? Nobody had put it to me that way before. But, there's young Afghan women who used to be able to go to school. And now when the Taliban is going to take over, which inevitably they are, they're going to get stuffed back into burqas and get, if they try to take them off, they're going to get acid thrown in their face. And it's about to become a repressive hellhole again. So it's like, I'm pretty conflicted. Like, I'm somewhat isolationist by temperament, let's say. But it seems to be a negative thing that we pulled out, the skeleton force that was there. Now all these atrocities, all the atrocities are going to happen.
Yeah, I guess my opinion is pretty similar. On gut instinct, it's like, yeah, I want to pull the troops back. But with further thinking, it's kind of interesting because there's two sides to it. On one side, our country has done what we were supposed to do. We did invest a ton in training their military. We did a ton in helping out with resources, and we gave them a 20-year buffer that they could have utilized this time to put more energy in places rather than just having us as like the symbolic deterrence, because that's what we were. Because it's like, right, if the Taliban invades and kills even one American troop, all out warfare immediately, right, and the Taliban would have been crushed. And so there was a symbolic deterrence. At the same time, the Afghan government explicitly said in interviews, like the president, even in generals, when they were over here meeting with Biden, were interviewed by our reporters at the Times, at the Post, and they literally said that they thought this was a bluff. They were like, what do you want us to do to keep troops here? Like, no, we're actually pulling them out. They really thought this was just this giant 5-year bluff. Like, they really never thought that American troops were going to get pulled out, and therefore there was no serious contingency plan. So it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? And we are doing for what it's worth, anybody who had significant involvement with the the military, be it now spouses, translators, engineers. They're all getting citizenship, so they're already being flown out to areas that are considered safe. They're going to be streamlined for automatic citizenship here in the United States because they served us like incredibly through the military. So to me, it's like we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. We should have, and there was a lot of criticism that we didn't.
Yes.
A lot of criticism, and a lot of people died because of us.
Yep.
So at least we learned from that, but
I guess.
Again, it doesn't change the fact it's like, it's messed up. The region's going to be destabilized, but we're not supposed to be nation builders.
Well,
even though we are. We do.
We are what we are, I suppose. You can call it a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, young Afghan women getting to go to school is probably a good thing for the low cost of maintaining a skeleton force there.
I personally think that with the knowledge that Afghanistan seriously didn't have a backup plan, we should have stayed a little bit longer. I think knowing that, it's like, oh my gosh, we should have maintained. And some top generals are now retiring because they're just saying, hey, this really went against our wishes, so it's time that we call it a day and get our pension.
What about you, Tim? What do you think about all this?
It's a tough situation. I've kind of heard arguments on both sides, and I think you gotta even. I don't agree that we're not nation builders, that we shouldn't go out and try and help or get involved in other people's affairs ever. I do feel like if we do put our nose in it, then we need to make sure we do it right and that we make things better for them. But you also have to look at the total amount of effort put in, the amount of time put in, and try and think, like, is it a fixable situation? And I don't know enough about this situation in Afghanistan to say it is or it isn't, or it is right or wrong or whatever, but I mean, after 20 years, and I think it's $100 billion that we've put into their economy and other things, helping to fund their military and train their military and arm their military, not just in cost of us being there, but like stuff and things we've given to them.
Yeah.
For them to be still unable to defend themselves, it either needs to like almost go back to colonization, when you're like, okay, now you're a part of our protection, right? Like is it to that level? Should we go and just be there now? Should they, or what? Like, when can you draw the line and say you're on your own now to deal with your own issues? And I don't know that right now is the right time or not, but I don't think that we should plan on being there forever. And so eventually you have to draw that line and leave, right?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think, like if you were to draw parallels, I mean, we still have troops stationed in Europe. We still have the bases that we built, when we had troops stationed in West Germany to help prevent against the excesses of Russia. We still have bases in Japan after conquering them in World War II. We still have bases in North Korea. I wish South Korea to,
look at
North Koreans. And they flourish because of it.
Our country does a good job hiding the fact as well that, like, presidents have their goals. I've learned this recently from a good friend of mine, but like the CIA has massive influence in regime change, regime building, regime destabilization. Like, we are absolutely an imperialistic country. There's no denying it. Like, we are the wealthy nation that we are today because we've been an imperialist nation through the 21st century. Like, we have our hands in every country in South America. We have our hands in like every country in the world, basically. Like, now, granted, there's other world powers that like we butt heads with and like we have to compromise with, but all developing countries we have our hands in. Like, it's pretty nuts.
We'd have to maybe argue it out one day whether that's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, it's easy to say it's a bad thing, but then also it's like we are benefiting remarkably from it. So it's a weird there's definitely a sense of desensitization and also like a level of like plausible deniability, right? Like, you and I, the average person, doesn't realize like, oh well, I'm hardworking, I have a job, I'm doing these things, I'm going to school, I have a loan for my house, I'm doing right, like, and we feel good about that. We feel like we worked really hard for it. We don't always think about the context of our country that has allowed it for us to do that, and what our country has done to the rest of the world to create a country of wealth. Because it's like, at the end of the day, things zero out. Like, one person's wealthy, another person isn't. So there's something to be said about some American imperialism, and whether or not that's good or bad. I would say that that's worth a whole special podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.